I know that the going market price point for one of these is $350 US. Well, I'm pretty sure my dumbass just said it. This is what I cut my teeth on. This product right here. The AD&D 2nd edition starter box set. Yes, today we're going back to my roots, to my 10-year-old self, to 1995. I don't participate in the edition war conversations and whatnot, but 2nd edition will always have a warm place in my heart. Probably because it's better than all the other ones. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. We're about to cut this shrink wrap, and I'm going to give you a full tour of everything that was in here. I'm very excited. I'm doing this late at night so I can take my time. I'm down here in the basement in my workshop. I'm going to savor this. I'm going to really draw it out because my wife is finding out, like with you, right now. She's just finding out as she's watching this that I spent $350 on this. So let's time travel back 29 years, about 100 pounds, to when I was still towing that line of boyish handsomeness. We're doing this for all of you. Like and subscribe. Let's go. All right. Here we go. Let's go ahead and puncture, and there goes the value. Just like that. Everything the first time player needs. There we go. Get a look at this. Imagine you have entered a fantasy realm with monsters, treasures, and daring deeds to be done. Play a heroic fighter or a cunning wizard. Explore old castles and chart the depths of mysterious dungeons. The Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game has no limits. Your character can do anything you can imagine. An interactive audio CD guides you through the adventures. This is the easiest and fastest way to learn the AD&D game. The audio CD is complete with digital sound effects, music, and adventures, so crank up your boombox and dive into real adventure with the Introduction to AD&D game. Your first quest is in your hands. Feels good. All right, let's see what we got inside. It's good cardboard. I'm gonna save that cardboard. All right. Stale. Smells like 1995. Okay, got some miniatures here. They appear to be 28 millimeter. So actually I measured, and these are 30 millimeters from ground to eye. The plastic is extremely hard, but it has not embrittled over the past 30 years, which is good news. So I'm going to set these aside for a rainy day. I'm looking forward to painting them. All right, you got your standard polyhedrals. Look at them. You gotta look at those bad boys. The original colors kind of clouded up a little bit. Oh yes, I remember this. This is so cheesy. This is like a walkthrough CD that the Dungeon Master can play. I remember playing this. I think what I'll do is go ahead and, yeah, it's in good condition. I'm going to rip this and just go ahead and upload it as a bookmarked video. Total breach of copyright. If they really care about the AD&D 2nd edition disc, they'll strike me and I'll take the strike. But look for that in a separate video. I remember these. These were like, some of it's so cringe.
Your demands are ridiculous. Begone, adventurers!
What's an orb?
An orb is a globe of great power. Different orbs have different powers.
Rats! Hungry, verminous rats!
Your first adventure wasn't so tough, was it?
No, it was easy.
Yeah, but I still don't get it. What's a cleric?
All right, that's good. So, yes. Character cards. And Morganth, this is the one that I remember. Oh, Silverleaf too. That jogs the memory. But this one in particular. Morganth the Mysterious. I was always like weirdly preoccupied with templating. Like I remember I tried to replicate this format. I would cut pieces of paper in half and make new characters. Actually, it was Microsoft Office 95. I learned how to use Microsoft Word and all the drawing tools and text boxes and stuff like that by trying to recreate these. Lordan the Pure is a human cleric, wears leather armor and a shield, and his general rules cheat sheet includes for casting spells and turning undead. Delvar Ironfist is a dwarf fighter, wears chainmail, wields a battle axe, and has a towering 12 hit points. Silverleaf Half Moon is an elf fighter wizard, a dual class, or maybe it's multi-class. AD&D had dual classing and multi-classing. They were different things. But he wears robes, no armor, because he's a spellcaster. And looking at his cheat sheet, actually he is a multi-class. So he gains levels very slowly because his experience points are divided half and half. But when he does level up, he becomes a level 2 wizard and a level 2 fighter, more or less. Morganth the Mysterious, a human wizard. Straight up spellcaster with a hearty 4 hit points. Beldar the Brave, a human fighter, wearing chainmail and longsword. Notably, early in the player's handbook it talks about resurrection and how Beldar's constitution has been lowered a few times because he's died and needed resurrection, I guess, several times. And Slinker, a human thief. Wearing leather armor, uses a short sword and bow, and interestingly, his damage is called out as 2d6 for backstab, as opposed to 1d6 times 2. So it's not really double the normal damage, it's double the normal damage dice, which, wow, that's what we know today. Alright, nice. So you got the character cards, and then we get into the Freedale, little map of Freedale there. And here we go. Let's get these out here. So first let's start with the player's handbook. So this condensed 2nd edition player's handbook. I love the trade dress of this edition. The font set and the colors they used. I like a good sans serif font. And setting it against plain white instead of like a parchment backing makes it much more accessible. Now, even in this condensed version of the player's handbook, you got all the standard fare, what a game is, what the scores are, the character class, and you've only got fighter, wizard, thief, or cleric, and race, you've only got elves and dwarves. Some interesting nuances that I don't quite remember, but they're a bit different, is like rounds. Rounds are defined as 1 minute. And at least in this starter set, 1 inch on the map is treated as 10 feet, not 5 feet. And characters move up to 120 feet per round, or dwarves who can move 60 feet per round. Or the character can move half that and still make an attack or take some other action. Fighting is laid out cleanly on a single page. And in this set it just treats initiative as the entire side, players or monsters. And of course, attack rolls. Roll the d20 and subtract it from your THAC0. Gather round, kids. THAC0 is an acronym for 2-hit armor class 0. THAC0 depends on your class and character level. It gets lower as you become more powerful. A lower armor class number is better and harder to hit. Your THAC0 is the number you'd have to roll on a d20 in order to hit armor class 0. Thus, to hit armor class 2, you would subtract 2 from your THAC0 and try to roll it. Or put another way, roll a 20-sided die, subtract the result from your THAC0, and if the result is less than or equal to the monster's armor class, then the attack hits. It's really quite intuitive. I don't know why we went away from this. And the rules for casting spells, pretty simple. One thing I like though is that saving throws are specifically called out, like as a line item. When you look at the spell entry, it's right there. I prefer this. Finding traps works very differently. Only the thief can do it, and when they decide to, the DM rolls percentile dice secretly. It is important that the player not see this dice roll. That way the player does not know if there is no trap there or if they just did not find it. If they do find it, they make another percentile roll, except the thief themselves can do it this time. Death was handled differently. No death saves. When a character reaches 0 hit points, they become unconscious. They aren't actually dead until -10 hit points. If they do die, they have the option to try and get resurrected. Their buddies can take the body back to town, pay 1,000 gold to the temple per character level, and upon resuscitation they lose 1 point of constitution outright. And as always, clerics can turn undead. You got the little table there. And more information about the unique powers that the thieves have. Backstabbing was simply that the monster must be a humanoid, and the thief must attack from behind, with surprise, with a dagger or short sword. That way they get +4 bonus to their attack roll, and double their normal damage. But the full list of thieves' skills is here. Pickpockets, open locks, find or remove traps, which we covered earlier, move silently, hide in shadows, and climb walls. These were not difficulty checks, these were percentile rolls. You're trying to roll under, and so your percentile gets higher as your level goes up. Of course, a section for alignment. Here's an interesting sentence. Players can also pick an alignment for their characters. However, since they are heroes, they cannot be evil. All the evil alignments are reserved for monsters and non-player characters. In addition, thieves can never be lawful good. Some interesting baked-in value judgments here. I think this was part of the response to the whole morale satanic panic thing. I mean, I got no problem with it. I don't think I've ever played an evil character anyway, or DM'd one. Now here we got a little bit of crunch with the ability scores. There are very specific things that get modifiers rather than just a flat ability mod. So strength is going to affect your hit roll and your damage. Dexterity affects your missile attack rolls, and defensive adjustment, which is just the modification to your natural armor class. Again, a lower armor class was good. Constitution, of course, your hit point adjustment, though only warriors receive the higher bonuses for a constitution of 17 or greater. Everyone else maxes out at +2. And wisdom gives bonus spells to a cleric, and only a cleric. Oh, and ability scores were done properly. Roll a 3d6 and assign that number to one of your 6 abilities. Then do it again 5 more times, as long as it meets the requirements of your race. Humans have no limits, but dwarves and elves have minimums and maximums on each of the abilities. They also have inherent adjustments to some of the abilities, which makes sense due to their natural physiology. Also, dwarves cannot be wizards. And they're hardy, so they get a saving throw bonus based on their constitution. Elves are lithe and agile, so they get a +1 bonus to hit whenever they attack with a long sword, short sword, or bow. They can also see in the dark. And they're good at noticing things. They can detect secret doors on a 1 or a 2 rolled on a d6. Starting money and equipment, nothing particularly new or interesting here. Then you have the spells section. This starter set has a smattering of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level spells. I like the way these are written. A single paragraph, concise. Look how many fit on a single page. And we have all the classics: Magic Missile, Knock, Featherfall, Identify, Fireball, Dispel Magic. And then lastly, you got the cleric spells. Notably, Cure Wounds was not Cure Wounds back then. You had Cure Light Wounds, Cure Medium Wounds, and Cure, I think it was Heavy Wounds. So spells generally didn't scale naturally. A few of them still do, but not nearly as streamlined as you're used to in 5e. And on the back cover is where the normal equipment is. I guess this is a cheat sheet for the players. Silver weapons were uniquely called out. They cost 10 times the regular amount, and after the 3rd time they hit, they start to have a 20% chance each time that it will bend or break. You can then repair it for twice the cost of buying a regular steel one. Interesting. Awesome. All right. We got naturally, the Dungeon Master Guide. The condensed Dungeon Master Guide is much like the player's handbook. A few pages of the standard fare, what's an RPG, what do I do? Then there's some guidance about the 2 adventures that are contained later in this book. And it tells the track number to play on that CD to serve as an aid when running the session. The idea was you'd listen to how the players and people would talk on that CD to sort of get a vibe for how things flow at the table. And then you move on and are weaned off of the game aid. It includes 2 adventures, the Tomb of Damara and the Ghost of Harrow Hill. We'll check those out in a bit. But one of the key concepts, like the vision behind D&D back in those days that I don't think you really get from modern times, is leaving and coming back. It was expected that you would go into the dungeon and come back out, resupply, stock up. You wouldn't do it all in one shot. Then there's a chapter about the town of Freedale. So again, it's home base. They're expected to back out and come back here kind of frequently. Got an overview of the standard player characters. There's the Tower of High Wizard Netheril. He will actually identify magical items that the players find. They can't use magical items till they've been identified, but he charges 1,000 gold each. There's also a 50% chance that he'll have a magical item for sale whenever the PCs come to visit. There's some stables with a few rules about how to care for horses and the costs associated. A scribe who can potentially give the party local information that they might need. A Temple of Lathander and a list of services and their costs. A money lender. They can go get a loan, sell gems, that kind of thing. And a whole bunch of other stuff. It's a surprising amount of detail for a starter set town. And it's so concisely but flavorfully written. Evening Star Inn, the general store, blacksmith, fine foods, a tavern. It's a really cool playground for the players. And then it's off to the Ghost of Harrow Hill, which again we'll revisit later. And then under Mount Dread, there is a third adventure. This one has no disc game aids and it has no map. This is where you sort of graduate and you run this one as the DM basically on your own. And in fact, it has a second level to it. And this one doesn't even have a DM map. Instead, it encourages you to create your own. In fact, right there on the back cover, they provide you a nice empty grid on which you can draw that map. Again, gradually developing the skills of the DM. It's a good starter set. Yeah, good stuff. All right, we got a condensed Monstrous Manual. There's very little preamble here in the condensed monster manual. Goes over the usual stuff, hit dice, number of attacks, special attacks. And as far as it being a starter set, it says there are no plastic figures for the monsters. Whenever the players run into a monster, the DM should show them the picture from this book. Most of the time, the DM does not need to have anything out on the map. The only time it is helpful to have something represent the monsters is in combat. At this time, the DM can use coins, action toys, small plastic toy animals, pawns from other games, or anything else to show where the monsters stand. A handful of dice works very well. Each monster can have a different dice number face up. Also, here's some curious guidance. Role-playing monsters. A bunch of stuff, but then it concludes, in all cases, monsters will try to save their own lives. No living thing wants to die. They will usually surrender or run away first. They will only fight to the death if there seems to be no other choice. Interestingly, the stat blocks in this book don't speak to morale at all. There's no morale number like there is in full AD&D. There's just that one blanket guidance at the front of the book. I like that. I always found this artwork of the bear to be odd. It's like, with the claw, he's sort of like, come at me, bro. As far as dragons go, you only have two options here in the starter set, an ancient copper or a hatchling red. It's like they hired two artists for the Duergar and couldn't decide. Naturally, the gelatinous cube. Here's how it functions in this edition. If hit, the character makes a saving throw or else is paralyzed for 5d4 rounds, up to 20 rounds. The cube sucks in the paralyzed character the next round, and they begin taking 2d4 damage every round. Now that is properly harsh. The gray ooze has eyes. Once again, I gotta call out and appreciate the conciseness. 2 monsters a page, no more, no less. Oh, and level drain. So let's look at the entry for the white. The successful attack by a white automatically drains a level of experience. The character's experience points are lowered so that they're halfway between their current one and the previous one. They also lose hit points and abilities based on the level. Lost levels are gone forever. Hardcore. And in the back, we've got the treasure types and tables for treasure generation. This is common to all editions. And at the back, a treasures list with some not photorealistic artwork, but sort of painterly, just really gorgeous. And these pages right here are what established my mind's eye for the aesthetic of D&D. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 also execute it perfectly. Magical armor and weapons are generally just +1, +2, or +3, and some monsters can only be harmed by weapons of +1 or +2 or +3, depending on their strength, though that's not really factored in here in the starter set. And the last page has some unusual weapons. More than just a bonus to make them magical, they have some sort of unique property. And once again, more info about treasure on the back as a rapid reference. And we've got the Dungeon Master screen. This one, okay, this is a trifold. And you got all the standard stuff there. Flimsy cardstock, but it's all we needed. It's all we still need. Okay. We got some flyers here. The Worlds of RPGA Network. Yep, got these flyers and there's no URLs anywhere to be found. You got addresses and phone numbers. Nice. Dragon and Dungeon Magazine with the how to subscribe. And where do I go from here? This is a survey. Okay. And yes, I'm gonna need a bigger space to unfold this, but you got the map. Yeah. Yep, I think we're going to have to go to the big table and get a good look at this. House on Harrow Hill and the Tomb of Damara. The Tomb of Damara is pretty straightforward stuff. In the town of Freedale, the High Wizard Netheril wants to hire somebody to go and find out what happened to the Elf Lord Terran, who went missing 2 days ago after he journeyed to the ruins of Damara's castle. The dungeon is divided into two, really. There's the ruins of the castle proper, has a central area, a garden, a chapel. It's been infested by kobolds and rats and lizard men. But then there's a whole dugout area underground behind the castle, and somewhere in there is Terran's magical orb, which is the second part of the adventure, finding it. Back here is the good stuff. There's a carrion crawler, an ogre, giant bats, a gelatinous cube over at the armory, and eventually they'll come to an orcish mine and the Tomb of Damara himself. Inside the tomb, 2 shadows guard his corpse. After defeating these, the treasure includes 450 gold, a magical ring of protection +1, scrolls of fireball and slow, a shield +1, and Terran's orb of dragon kind. The intent is that the Ghost of Harrow Hill is the second adventure that the new D&D group would run. There's a page-long backstory which I won't reiterate now, but it's a haunted mansion, and a perfectly serviceable one at that. For those brand new to the hobby, they'll find a lot of novelty here, even if they're old tricks. For example, there's one moment where the ghost of the house's master comes out of a painting and demands the life force of one of the characters in order to spare the other ones. And it's an alleged moral choice to be made, but really the book, again, goes into some railroading here and straight up tells the DM to advise the group if they try and sacrifice someone to not do that because it won't end well. There's a library, a music room, a dining hall, a kitchen, a sunroom, a storeroom, a cellar, and Klaus's sanctuary. Klaus is a 3rd level human cleric who's been trapped here for 6 nights.
I don't think so, Jim.
He's been unable to leave the protection of his candle, so he's been stuck here in this room. There's also a secret crypt not visible on this big map as a surprise to the characters. It's where the final boss ends. It's a juju zombie, Gunter, the original master of the mansion. And if they defeat him, the magic is dispelled and they can leave. But in a niche in this room behind the last skeleton, there's a cache of treasure including 355 gold, 575 silver, a longsword +2, a mace +1, a potion of speed, a ring of invisibility, and 3 potions of healing. AD&D 2nd edition did treasure caches the best. You just don't see this density anymore. Know what I'm saying? Anyway, with Klaus the Cleric, this adventure gives the DM the opportunity to practice running an NPC alongside the rest of the group. It's a perfectly good adventure for introducing to Dungeons & Dragons. I wonder how it would run today. Like, if I were to take the hybrids and try and run a session with them, or maybe find some of you who were born into 5th edition or something like that and see what you think of it. Because it is a very, very different experience. But playing this box set as written, I mean, like this was the old Fandelver, if you will. And playing this as written in Year of Our Lord 2024 could be interesting. Anyway, thanks for your time today. I'm Wylock. Keep on making things and playing games, and I'll see you next time.